Thank you for joining. In this lesson, we will continue practicing controllers. We will explore the available options for implementing the content response MIME types such as text, HTML, JSON, and binary in NetCore 7, and discuss methods like ContentResult content, PhysicalFileResult, VirtualFileResult, and FileContentResult. MIME stands for Multipurpose Internet Mail Extensions. It's a standard that extends the format of email messages to support text in character sets other than ASCII, as well as attachments of audio, video, images, and applications programs. A MIME type in NetCore 7 is a string that identifies the type of data being transmitted. It's a two-part identifier consisting of a type and subtype. The type specifies the general category of the data, such as an application, image, or text, and the subtype specifies the specific format of the data, such as JSON, JPEG, or HTML. MIME types are used by web servers and browsers to determine how to handle the data being transmitted. As you may recall from previous lessons, when the server sends a response to the browser, it includes some necessary information. This information includes details like the response status, server type, the type of response, whether it's text, HTML, JSON, etc., the date, and more. Additionally, it's important to know that we can send a different content type in the response than what was requested by the client. For instance, if the client asks for text, the server can respond with HTML or any other format. We are not bound to respond in the exact format requested by the client. Now let's get back to our code. To send a response of a specific type, we need to include this technical data in the server's response. So if I declare this type using ContentResult, then by using options like content and content type, we can specify the response that the server will provide. If I compile and open the block address in the browser, the response will match the code we defined. And in the browser's DevTools, you will see that the content type is set to text plain. So in this case, the content is that actual text, which is a string, and its type is plain text. It's important to note that this type setting is specific to the block endpoint. It doesn't mean that all endpoints need to have the same type. In fact, for any other endpoints, the type can be different. For example, I can change the home URL to have an HTML type. And now you will see that the type is HTML, and default styles are applied. Additionally, we can directly add HTML styles like text styles or font sizes in the response along with the included h1 tag. Now we have an endpoint that explicitly returns HTML, and another one that explicitly returns plain text. However, this approach can be a bit cumbersome. There is an alternative approach we can use by inheriting from MVC controller. So home controller will inherit from Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC controller. And for the user endpoint, we can make it shorter by using only content. And since we have declared the use of MVC in the file header, this part can be left out and we can declare a controller only. Now, if you compare these two records, block and users, you will notice that the one for the user endpoint is much cleaner and shorter. If you open the content method definition, you will see that content is already provided to us, and it returns a ContentResult object type. Its parent class is controller base, which we will delve into further in the second part of the controllers lessons, where we will work on a project involving SQL and Swagger. If you open the definition for the controller class, you will see that the controller base class is also listed here. So to recap, we have inherited from a controller, and within that we have the controller base class, which contains the content method returning a ContentResult object. That's why we include the using Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC declaration, and our home controller class automatically inherits from a controller class with the content method. Now what we need to do is simply use the content method to make our code more readable and visually appealing. And in the next example, we will work with JSON format. JSON short for JavaScript Object Notation. is a lightweight way to exchange structured data. It's often used to represent data objects with attributes and arrays. JSON is easy for humans to read, store, and transmit. In this example, we have a JSON top-level object with two nested objects, person and address. The format is straightforward, and we won't dive deep into it in this lesson. We will cover JSON format in more detail in future lessons. Now I will add an additional endpoint and name it dbaccess. This endpoint will return JSON data. First, we will create a simplified version of this endpoint. We just need to create a simple object, convert it into JSON format, and then use the content method to return it as JSON. As a result, the endpoint will reply in JSON format, and in these developer tools you will see that the response header is of JSON type as well. And to clarify how to respond with a class object, I will quickly add a class called access. In this class I will include a few properties: login, password, ID, and auth. And what is happening here is quite straightforward, since you are familiar with C# programming. As this simulates database access, we will relocate this class into a folder named model, following MVC model view controller pattern. In the home controller, we will require the namespace, and I will include an extra endpoint. The remaining code is straightforward C#, so I won't provide comments for it. When we access the endpoint, we will receive a proper response that includes a generated GUID. In this lesson, we will also talk about FileResult. Whenever you have a file that can be downloaded like a PDF or a binary installation file, you need to declare it as a FileResult. There are primarily three different methods for managing and delivering files. The first one is the PhysicalFileResult, which provides a file from a physical file system to a client. The file path must be an absolute path. A VirtualFileResult delivers a file from a virtual file system to a client. The file path can be a relative path. A FileContentResult returns the content of a file to a client, regardless of the file's location. The file content can be in any format, such as text, images, or audio. It doesn't require the file to actually exist. This type can also be used when we need to include a file as a part of an HTTP response. I will create three endpoints and name the methods according to the file types. The first one will be for a physical file, the second one for a virtual file, and the last one for the file content type. If we access the first endpoint, we will download the file. The PhysicalFileResult method needs two things: an absolute path to the file on the server as the first parameter, in our case it's a PDF file on my computer, and the file type as the second parameter, which we declare as PDF. If you need to work with various file types, you can look up Mime types to declare them, or check the link I have provided below the video. To use the endpoint with the VirtualFileResult, we should remember the lesson about the static wroot folder. To access a static folder like wroot, we need to register the useStaticFiles method. After registering the useStaticFile method, we should add the wroot folder to the project. Additionally, I will copy and paste the PDF file into the wroot folder. With the wroot folder declared, we can easily specify a relative path to the file along with its file name. If we navigate to the correct URL, we can successfully access the file. And when you open the developer tools, you will see a representation of the file. Once more, this highlights the difference between virtual and physical files. Virtual files need a relative path and can be sourced from the wroot folder, while physical files require an absolute path to a file on the server. The last file type is FileContentResult, which is declared using a byte array. This code is plain C#. When we access the endpoint, the server provides the same file to us. Before we conclude this lesson, there is one more approach to make this code cleaner. We can use the file and physical file methods provided by the controller base abstract class. This will make your code much cleaner and more concise. And as always, lesson assignments. At the conclusion of each lesson, I highly encourage you to complete the assignments, as they will greatly contribute to your progress in ASP.NET Core 7. By consistently practicing, you will see faster results in your learning journey. And the assignments answers you can download from the GitHub. The link is below. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or need further assistance, feel free to comment below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more great coding content. Stay updated with the latest videos by ringing the notification bell. Happy coding!